Marcus Thompson checked his watch nervously as he approached the security checkpoint at Chicago O'Hare International Airport. His flight to New York was boarding in 45 minutes, plenty of time under normal circumstances. But as a successful black attorney who traveled frequently, Marcus knew that normal circumstances didn't always apply to him. The security line moved at a steady pace until Marcus reached the metal detector. Officer Derek Hansen, a middle-aged white man with a perpetual scowl, looked him up and down with undisguised suspicion. "Step through," Hansen barked. Marcus complied. The detector remained silent, no beep, no alarm. But Hansen held up his hand. "Secondary screening." "Step aside, sir." "Is there a problem, officer?" Marcus asked politely, already knowing where this was heading. "Random selection," Hansen said with a smirk that suggested it was anything but random. Marcus watched as 3 white passengers passed through without issue. He glanced at his watch again. 38 minutes until boarding ended. The random screening was anything but quick. Hansen took his time, going through Marcus's carry-on bag item by item, unfolding every piece of clothing, opening every toiletry bottle to smell it, examining his laptop from every angle. "What's the purpose of your trip?" Hansen asked, holding up Marcus's expensive suit like it was evidence of a crime. "Business meeting." "I'm an attorney." Hansen's eyes narrowed. "Sure you are." "And I'm the Pope." 25 minutes until boarding ended. "Can we please expedite this?" "My flight, you'll leave when I say you can leave," Hansen interrupted, his voice dripping with authority and something darker. "Now empty your pockets again." "All of them." Marcus had already emptied his pockets twice. This was deliberate. He could see it in Hansen's eyes. The man was enjoying this, prolonging it purposely. Around them, other passengers stared, some with sympathy, others with suspicion, as if Hansen's treatment of him confirmed some guilt. "Officer Hansen," Marcus said firmly but respectfully, "I've complied with every request. I've been through the scanner, the pat-down, and you've searched my belongings twice. What specific concern do you have?" Hansen stepped closer, lowering his voice so only Marcus could hear. "My concern is people like you thinking you can just waltz through here with your fancy bag and suit, acting like you own the place. I decide who gets through my checkpoint and when." 15 minutes until boarding ended. Marcus felt his jaw tighten, but he maintained his composure. Years of dealing with racism had taught him that losing his cool would only make things worse. He pulled out his phone. "What do you think you're doing?" Hansen demanded. "Calling my office to let them know I might miss my flight due to this extensive screening." Hansen's hand shot out, though he didn't quite touch Marcus's phone. "No phones in the security area." "That's a violation. Now I'll need to search you again for attempting to break protocol." This was it. Marcus realized Hansen was going to make him miss his flight no matter what. The cruelty wasn't just in the racism, it was in the calculated way Hansen was using his authority to inflict maximum damage while staying just within the bounds of his power. 7 minutes until boarding ended. "I want to speak to your supervisor," Marcus stated clearly. "Supervisor's busy. You'll wait until I'm done here." Hansen began a third search of Marcus's bag, moving even more slowly than before. Marcus watched his phone display the final boarding call notification. His important meeting, a potential partnership worth millions, was slipping away. "There," Hansen finally said with a satisfied smile, 43 minutes after the ordeal began. "You're cleared. Have a nice flight." "My flight left 2 minutes ago," Marcus said quietly, his voice controlled despite the rage burning inside him. Hansen shrugged. "Not my problem. Maybe next time you'll arrive earlier. You know how it is, some people just need more screening than others." The racist implication hung in the air like poison. Marcus collected his belongings, his hands shaking slightly, not from fear, but from the effort of containing his anger. He noted Hansen's badge number and headed straight to the airport manager's office. Derek Hansen sat in the small, windowless office of the airport's HR director, confusion and growing concern written across his face. Across from him sat Marcus Thompson, now wearing a visitor's badge, and beside Marcus was the airport manager, Patricia Wong. "Mr. Hansen," Patricia began, her voice professionally cold, "do you remember this man?" Hansen's face paled as recognition dawned. I was just doing my job." "Your job," Marcus said, opening a folder, which I had extensively reviewed after filing my complaint. "Would you like to know what I found?" Over the past 3 months, Marcus had done more than just complain. As a civil rights attorney with resources and connections, he'd launched a comprehensive investigation. He'd subpoenaed security footage, filed freedom of information requests, and interviewed dozens of passengers. In the past year alone, Marcus continued, you've conducted random additional screenings on 127 passengers. Would you like to guess what percentage of them were people of color? Hansen said nothing. 93%, Patricia answered for him. 93%, Mr. Hansen, when the airport's passenger demographics show that only 30% of travelers through this terminal are minorities. Marcus laid out photo after photo on the desk, security footage screenshots showing Hansen waving white passengers through while stopping Black, Latino, and Middle Eastern travelers. Timestamps showing dramatically different screening times. Complaint after complaint that had been filed and mysteriously lost in the system. "You made me miss a crucial business meeting," Marcus said, his voice steady. "But you know what? That delay gave me time to do something more important. I started asking questions, making calls. I found 47 other people you did this to, people who missed flights, missed job interviews, missed saying goodbye to dying relatives, missed weddings." Hansen's face had gone from pale to gray. Some of them, Marcus continued, were so intimidated by authority that they never complained. Others complained and were ignored. But when a civil rights attorney with a personal grievance and the resources to investigate starts making noise, people pay attention. Patricia slid a document across the desk. "Mr. Hansen, your employment is terminated effective immediately. Additionally, the airport authority will be paying settlements to the 47 individuals Mr. Thompson has identified, and we're implementing mandatory bias training for all security personnel." But Marcus wasn't done. "There's more, Derek." It was the first time he'd used Hansen's first name, and the familiarity made the former officer flinch. "I've also shared my findings with the TSA, the Department of Homeland Security, and the FBI's Civil Rights Division. Using your position in security to engage in systematic racial profiling is a federal offense." Hansen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "The Justice Department is considering charges," Marcus said, standing up. "At minimum, you're looking at substantial fines. At maximum, well, we'll see what they decide." As Hansen was escorted from the building by security, a bitter irony not lost on anyone, Patricia turned to Marcus. "I apologize, Mr. Thompson, on behalf of the airport. This should never have happened." Marcus nodded. "The real change will be in making sure it never happens to anyone else." Marcus walked through the same security checkpoint at O'Hare. The process was smooth, professional, and courteous. The new security protocols, partially designed based on his recommendations, had transformed the experience. The wall near the checkpoint hung a small plaque, part of the settlement agreement, with a simple message: all passengers deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of race, religion, or appearance. As Marcus waited at his gate, his phone buzzed with a news alert. Derek Hansen had been convicted on federal civil rights violations and sentenced to 2 years in prison, followed by 5 years probation and 500 hours of community service working with civil rights organizations. But the real karma, Marcus thought, wasn't just in Hansen's punishment. It was in the policy changes that had swept through not just O'Hare, but airports across the country. His case had become a catalyst for reform, forcing institutions to confront their biases and implement accountability measures. 47 people who'd been victimized by Hansen had received settlements and formal apologies. Training programs were being redesigned. Body camera requirements for security personnel were being implemented. Complaint procedures were being overhauled to prevent future cover-ups. Marcus's phone buzzed again, a text from one of Hansen's other victims, a young black woman who'd missed her grandmother's funeral because of a similar random screening. "Just went through O'Hare security. In and out in 10 minutes, treated like a human being. Thank you for fighting for all of us." Marcus smiled. This was the real victory, not revenge, but reform. Not just punishing one racist security officer, but changing a system that had allowed his behavior to flourish for years. As he boarded his flight on time, Marcus reflected on the strange path that had brought him here. Hansen had tried to use his power to humiliate and harm, operating under the assumption that his victims were powerless. But karma had come not as some mystical force, but as the consequences of his own actions catching up with him, amplified by someone who had the knowledge, resources, and determination to ensure justice was served. Sometimes, Marcus thought as the plane took off, karma just needs a good lawyer to help it along. Derek Hansen served his time and emerged a different person, at least outwardly. His mandatory community service with the Equal Justice Initiative forced him to confront the real-world impact of the prejudices he'd harbored. Whether his change was genuine or merely for show, only time would tell, but for Marcus and the 47 others, justice had been served. And more importantly, countless future travelers would move through security checkpoints without facing the racial profiling that had once been routine. In the end, Hansen's attempt to make Marcus miss one flight had resulted in Hansen himself missing out on his career, his reputation, and his freedom. That was karma, delivered not by fate, but by the determination of one man who refused to let injustice go unchallenged, and who turned his personal setback into a victory for civil rights.